All right. So today I'm going to show you guys how to replace the toilet or reset one that was leaking from the base here. A lot of your toilets are going to have these toilet caps on here. If they're old, just pop them off with your channel locks, pair of pliers, whatever you got. You're going to loosen up your bolts. Hopefully they come off. If not, you may have to cut them off with a Sawzall, especially if they spin all the way underneath. Have you a trash bucket. Now something I also did is I took a shop vac. I sucked out the bowl and the tank. Let me get both sides loosened up here. Now we're also going to go ahead and replace the shutoff valve because it is not shutting off all the way anymore. This is a threaded pipe. This is a 3/8 inch iron pipe size brass nipple threaded into a 3/8 FIP by 3/8 compression shutoff valve. So we're going to replace it with the new one. Leave that to the side. Now that your supply line is disconnected, both bolts are removed, the toilet is sucked out with the water, you're now good to remove this toilet. Strap it on both sides here, pull up. Now I'm going to set this guy carefully to the side. Alright, so now we're going to get our bolts on there. Normally your wax will be stuck to this flange. You'll take a putty knife, scrape it off. This is my homemade putty knife, but like I said, the wax is already off of here. Just go around and get it good and cleaned up. Make sure you got a nice surface to mate to. Now next you're going to install your bolts. I use these Blue Monster toilet bolts. Really, it doesn't matter what brand. The most important thing is make sure you get a set that comes with 2 nuts for each side, so 4 total. So I get my first nut on there. I'm going to slide it in this tab. Now, most of the time you want to be able to turn it 90 degrees to get it to lock in really well, but these bolts are so thick, they oftentimes won't turn all the way, but just get it as far as you can. And then you want to get it centered up with the pipe, dead center from the wall. If you're unsure, take a measurement off the back of your wall to the center and mark it on both sides. Now that we're good and centered, at this point you would put your wax ring on. In this case, I'm going to use a Sani-Seal. These are made right here in the United States, in Indiana, where I'm from. And they've got these little holes that slide right over your bolts. These things are awesome. These also are helpful because if you mess up, you're not going to make a big mess. If you need to reset the toilet, you can reuse this ring, unlike wax, and this thing holds up really well. All right, now that we got our Sani-Seal and bolt set, that's ready for the toilet. Now we're going to go ahead and replace the supply stop. Now, with these, it's not crucial that you do this every time you replace your toilet or reset your toilet, but if this thing does not shut off all the way and it keeps dripping or leaking, it may be a good idea to replace it. Now, with that being said, if the water shuts off and it starts leaking around the handle, this little nut right here, if you tighten it up, a lot of times this will stop the leaking. You can just snug that nut up a little bit. But with that being said, it doesn't always work. Now, in this case, the seat inside here is worn down and it's allowing water to pass through the hose non-stop. So we're going to go ahead and replace it. This is a 3/8 pipe. So we need a 3/8 supply stop. And you're going to have 2 wrenches. You're going to have a crescent wrench for your valve itself. And you want to have some slip groove pliers to grab, or a pipe wrench to grab onto this pipe to back you up. That way you're not twisting the pipe off inside the wall. once this thing gets going, it'll be good to start moving on its own. Now, when you do this, make sure that your water is shut off. Make sure you have a good supply shut off somewhere in the house for the entire house. If you don't, you can shut it off at the road by your meter if your town allows it. And then you want to open up a hose spigot to make sure that it drains down lower than this. So make sure, even no matter what, that you have a bucket or a shop vac to catch some water if some comes out of here. I'm gonna go take this off. So now we're gonna apply our Teflon tape. Now here's my little trick to make these look pretty. Some guys, they'll just take this tape, stick it on there. When you thread your valve on, you can see the tape sticking out real far. What I do is I take my tape and I fold it in half. Now when you do this, make sure you get it really tight. And you're only going to go around this just a couple times because this is really thick tape. And you want to go righty-tighty with your tape. Because when you tighten that valve on, you don't want it to spin your tape off of there. There's that. Now I'm going to use my pipe thread sealant right here. Now on these, because it's a finished setting and I want it to look nice and pretty behind the new toilet, I'll take my pipe dope and I'll actually put it on the inside threads. Just like that. Now I can spin my valve on. Alright. Got it nice and straight up and down, and just have a tiny bit of tape showing there. Not bad at all. Alright. Now that that's done, go ahead and get our supply line on here. I just use stainless steel flexible ones. Make sure you get the stainless steel braided ones if you're going to do a flexible line like this. Those poly ones that don't have the stainless steel braiding on them, they can blow up. They're pretty well known for it, unfortunately. This nut here, you don't have to get it super tight at all. Just get it a little snug. It's got a little washer in there. It seals it, so you don't have to go crazy. All right. Now that our supply line's on there, our toilet gasket and our bolts are set, we're ready to set this toilet. So the toilet I'm installing and I recommend is an American Standard Cadet Pro. I did forget that they do come with their own toilet bolts. They are pretty good, so I'm gonna have to swap these back out. Now these ones have these little bolt washers that go on the bolt like so. These are a little bit different the way they're set up, but they're like this so that you can tighten up the toilet by hand with these. These are your nuts. So we're going to go ahead and put these back on. Make sure they're turned the proper direction and nice and center. Now that that's back in place, I'm going to set my toilet tank onto the bolt. You're going to make sure your gasket, it's got these slots on there. Line it up with the nut on the bottom of the tank, just like so. Your bolts are sticking through the bottom already. If they're not, get your bolts and your rubber washer seals and make sure that you've got them on the bottom of this toilet tank. Now these nuts are going to go on the bottom of the toilet after you set the tank. Once you get your tank on and the bolts are lined up, Your tank's nice and straight. You're gonna push this little washer onto the bottom here. Now, a lot of toilets are just gonna have a regular rubber washer, metal washers with nuts. These ones are all a little different, but it's still the exact same idea. Now these come with this sweet little wrench here that you can put on the bottom of this nut and just hold the bolt inside the tank with your finger. They'll tighten this thing right up for you. Okay, nice and easy. And just alternate from side to side. And once your tank's on there nice and tight, and your washers on the bottom of the toilet tank are kind of compressed, got that on nice and tight, now you're ready to set your toilet. I'm going to try to get your bolts nice and center on these. Take your nuts, tighten them up. Make sure you're putting this piece sticks out on the bottom. It'll slide over the top of the one that sticks up on your washers underneath. Now, I always get these as tight as I can by hand, and then I just give it a tiny bit more, maybe one turn with my pliers here. Grab both sides, make sure your toilet doesn't rock. Take your supply line, hook it up to the fill valve on the bottom of the tank. This is a 5/8 thread, or no, sorry, 7/8 thread. Most of your toilet supply lines are going to be 7/8 by 3/8. I like to put a little twisty twist on these, just make them look nice. Now these bolt caps go right over the top of those plastic nuts. That's why I like these. They're pretty slick. All right, that's it. Now all you gotta do is make your seat. But it's just got these tabs on the back, your washer and your bolts. You just want to try to get it nice and centered on the toilet the best you can. I recommend getting a slow close seat. So here's your bolts. You're just gonna slide those through. There it comes down on both sides. Take your nut. Make sure your seat is nice and straight on this bowl itself once before you get it. You're going to close your little caps on top. You're done. Normally I wouldn't recommend putting this seat on. This is what the customer wanted. I would recommend getting a slow close seat, because sometimes those toilets banging causes these to loosen up over time. If you followed everything correctly, you should have your toilet set in place with no leaks. Make sure you turn the water on. Flush it several times, make sure there's no leaks around the base, and you should be good to go. Subscribe and follow for more plumbing hacks, tips, and tricks.